Welcome to Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews. Today it's family time and also commercial vehicle time with a new generation of the Volkswagen Caddy. The first generation has been sold over 1.5 million times in 11 years. Now the second generation set sails to repeat that success, and we're going to take a look at that today if this will be possible. I think most of you guys will agree that this car will not win a design prize. However, this is not the purpose of this car, because here it says really form follows function. So it's first of all important what this car is actually capable of as for versatility. And therefore we also take a look not only at the exterior, interior in general, but especially at the versatility here today. And of course about driving the new Caddy and also talking about different versions. So what is new now in the second generation of the Volkswagen Caddy? There's a new exterior. You see it right here with the headlamps here, new headlamps, and also these fins have been changed that they horizontally directly lead into the headlight unit, and that creates a little bit sharper design. It looks more modern. Also there are updated engine, also new engines, and there are also changes to the infotainment system as well as a lot of most of the time optionally assistance systems. But first of all, let's continue now with the exterior. From the side profile, it rather remained the same, and it's also part of the concept. Same, for example, with the transition from the Transporter T5 to the T6. Volkswagen is rather using this evolution instead of a revolution, because you know the biggest customer group are also those who already own the car, and they are often not too keen on too many changes. You see, this is still this very practical kind of style already seen from the outside. However, the car is not too high from the outside, but we'll see later on that it feels high from the inside, and that's, I think, one of the tricks here with this car which makes it so versatile. You see here that we got the sliding door here already on the outside, I can already tell you now, and there's also still the Caddy Maxi available with 32 centimeters more in the wheelbase, and then you have even more space and already a third row here in the back. And of course, if you remove that third row, up to 3,700 liters in space or in total. This year the normal Caddy version with a passenger model comes about 2,800 liters in maximum capacity here in the trunk in the back. Also the rear hasn't changed that much. We got new taillights as always, as for a new generation or a facelift, however you want to call it. They're also a little bit new ordered, a little bit sharper also with the edges here. And we still got that classic design which is going with the low loading sill and also going far in the back. And it's quite of practically as well. I'll show you the purpose later. The combination here of the alloys and the tires, it will look kind of weird. Just 15-inch and also not a real aluminum alloy. But it's actually quite of special, this combination, because here we got some fuel saving tire, actually special fuel saving tire, and we'll see later if this plays an effect. So let's get inside. You know, one quality feature is always how the door handles feel, and they feel very good. As we use from Volkswagen, very solid quality, and also the sound the door makes when you close it. It's actually kind of a beautiful sound, I must say. Also compare it to other models and then you realize it. Then let's get inside. And you see it's a very easy entry. The car sits relatively low as well. So also when you're not that flexible anymore, it's absolutely no problem. Then what you immediately see, you got really a lot of space here. So above your head, in the front here with a very steep windscreen, everything is really spacious. And the car is, well, not the biggest one actually from the outside, but from the inside it is. And here, now in the new generation, we got a new styling. This is, by the way, here the trendline trim level, so it's the middle trim level. And I think it's a very good solution. We are showing exactly this one here to you, because this one will actually be purchased by a lot of people, because not everyone wants to afford the high line, which is already quite expensive. Here the trendline still remains quite okay. I mean, the car is starting below 20,000 euros here in Germany, for example, and then you have to top up something, of course, if you want to put the trendline, and of course it depends on which engine you are picking. I think what is very beautifully in this interior, you see here first of all the vents, they got this kind of stepping in here, so it look a little bit more modern. And then this is here, it's basically just plastic, but I think it's well done because it faked a little bit of this aluminum look. You must remember, it should remain quite cheap, that it's still affordable, so maybe not the full aluminum is used here. Also here, the dashboard, for example, it has a structure in it, but it's still kind of hard plastic. But I think in this middle trim level, that's also alright. Let's take a look at the seats. These ones are here the standard fabric seats. You see they have a B color scheme, and they are basically dark and quite robust, and that's of course very important for the children. And I can already tell you now, you have an upright seating position, again a lot of space, and it's quite comfortable. We've been riding already some kilometers now and still feel very easy here when riding it, so it's actually a good travel car, that I can say for now as well. So let's take a look at the cockpit. We know the steering wheel, for example, from the Volkswagen Jetta we've recently shown you. It's not the very latest one we know from the Golf 7, but you see it's already got this glossy dark elements, and it feels kind of good. Also the steering is quite good. Again, very solid everything, you can't see any flaws. And if we would just start the ignition, you see it's very classic instruments. In the middle there's a digital screen where we can scroll the information. It's not really the most modern one. We've seen also from the Volkswagen Corporation some with a better resolution inside. Well, but maybe it's not the most important aspect. You can see you can change to the phone, or you can activate or deactivate some assistance systems, or the status of the car, and also the consumption. Right now, 2-liter TDI with 102 horsepower. This is at 5.5 liters, 100 kilometers. That's, I think, quite okay. Automatic cruise control, ACC, is now available here as well. That's optionally, but then the distance to the car in front of you can be kept. Bluetooth audio, I connect the iPhone 4 to it very fastly, all working as well. Then let's move on to the center console here. You see you got an updated infotainment system here, also with the proximity sensor that the keys appear here. And actually, this one is also new. You got this this hoop around here. It's also better than the previous one. I think the general system here, it got quite good reaction times, and everything is really intuitive. As I said, I could connect the iPhone quite fast. And also when I just show you the GPS, I've tested it as well. Okay, I can either use the turning knob here to, for example, zoom in and out. But it's also possible that I just use the touchscreen and then move around here like on an iPad, or also use the zoom with 2 of my fingers. So overall, I think I can really recommend the system. However, these GPS are always optional, and you know they're always very expensive, what I tend to criticize. Then up here, there's the standard climate unit here for the air conditioning, and I think, well, it just does the job. Everyone knows how to control it. You don't need to learn anything. And I think this good overview is also one of the positive aspects of this car. Then very important for a family car, storage space. We got one on the top side here, also with a 12-volt power supply, so you can also load some stuff here if you use some adapters. Then storage space at the inside of the doors. You can either pick bottles in here, or here emergency vests, just to show you what actually is fitting in there. Then moving bottle in here. These are the standard bottle holders here. They don't have anything around here, so they're kind of loose in here. That's maybe not the best solution, but the size is actually quite okay and also fits for bigger bottles. Then in the front here, there's a special place for your smartphone. Also this symbol tells us that when I put my smartphone here, the connection for the phone is actually then transported via the car antenna. That's actually a quite useful function to have an even better quality, for example. There's also an aux in and a USB port. Finally, a direct USB port to load some stuff, also to put an MP3 USB music stick in here and another 12-volt power supply. Then I love it when we still have the manual handbrake here. Told you before already, I think it should always be there. If all electronic equipment fails, then you still have the possibility. And the last storage space in the front, just on the armrests, is quite small but quite steep. And here, well, it's kind of fixed, but what I'm not quite used from Volkswagen, this one is here. Well, usually it's kind of got a system that it's not flipping around here. That's a little bit cheaper than usual, but the rest of the surface here, for example, is all kind of high quality as we use from Volkswagen. One more for the co-driver, the glove box. You see it's also sliding down slowly, also sign for good quality. See the space we got in here, and it's also possible that you can cool. We actually can close it, but you can also cool the glove box. So you can put some more cold beverages in here, or maybe a chocolate bar that it doesn't get greasy. And one more hidden space is up here. You can put whatever here, and it's also safe because when you brake, it's kind of secured because it just stays here. Maybe you just shouldn't accelerate too hard. This is, by the way, the compressor for tire repair. That one is placed in here. Yes, I know you're curious, I know, and that's why I'm showing it to you, just to have a visual proof. This is the kit here, the compressor kit that you can actually repair the tire and still keep it running a bit, because you know nowadays the cars don't have the full spare tire usually anymore. Let's now get to the most important part, the sliding doors. If you remember our video from the Ford C-Max facelift, it was also a good car, but the rear sliding doors, they were kind of heavy. These ones here are kind of light, and if you think about you don't have too much power in your hands and still want to put your children in here, then it's also quite good when it's kind of loose. Well, not that loose, but as light it is that you can easily open it. Then if you take a look in here, there's really a lot of space here. Not too much for the knees. If you want more knee space, you should go for the Maxi Caddy. Then you have this 32 centimeters longer wheelbase and also a lot of more space in here. But the standard version here will account for about 2/3 of the customers in the passenger class. Then we can test it here. I got the seat as I would be driving now with 1.86 meters. You see my knees are fitting quite okay. I could move a little bit further to the front with the seat. Actually, that would still be working. But you see, it's rather something for children here, as long as the driver is made with it. When the driver is a little bit smaller, then also adult will be very happy here with the knees in the back. What is plenty of here is the headspace. I mean, I could put a huge melon over my head still and still would have enough headspace. And this creates a lot of spacious feeling here also in the rear compartment. You can easily also sit in the middle seat here. That's also quite possible. Of course, it's not too big in here, but still you also got a proper seat belt here, which you can attach to. Of course, most important for all our parents watching is here are the ISOFIX attachments that you can fix the child seats here easily. That's also possible rather well. Then there's a nice detail below here, because children also want to get some drinks, and then this one can be flipped out, and here a beverage can be held tight that it won't be spilled actually, and another 12-volt supply. Then the sliding doors can also be opened from the inside, of course. I haven't got into that detail, but I'm quite sure there's also a child safety mechanism that no one can do it that easily. And then you see, okay, now it's fixed. Then you can see you can really go both ways, and that's a very practical solution here, that you can just load something through. You can do a lot of funny things with it actually. And of course, this car is even more versatile because you see there are some small fabric hinges here at the seats, and if you pull them out, see when they are red, you can actually flip the bench. That's the first step. You see it's a 2/3, 1/3 connection. So I can also flip this one here then single. So it depends on if just one child is sitting here or two here. That's all possible. And then there's also another connection possible. I'm just coming around to make it even more exciting. Because as soon as you have slipped around that one, then you see this lever down here. And then you can pull this one and move it easily up. And then it's possible to have an even loading surface here all the way until the back. That's very interesting. Actually, it's also possible to remove them completely. We won't do it now because we also don't need it. I think most people won't do it in everyday life, that they completely remove it. You will probably go for the commercial vehicle version then, that you just put your stuff in there without having passengers. Then we can also check the trunk. Let's open it. You see it's really a huge hatch, so you have to be careful that your head doesn't get hit. And you see it's a wide opening. See, it's like 190, even more, 195 or something like that. Also very practical to be able to close it again easily. Then I remove the covering. You see there's a very low loading seal, so there's absolutely, I don't have to like, oh, my back is so hurting, I have to get my things out, and it's actually quite easy. No? You see, when I got a suitcase here, I don't need to bow down that much. It's really easy to put stuff in here. And you see the surface can be all even. Now we still have the seats flipped. You see it's really a long surface, and we're only in the standard Caddy version. If you pick the Maxi version now, it's even longer. And I can also flip back the seats, that you can see how it's looking then. So, step one. Oh, the other door closes itself. It's also very interesting. And now step two. Let's put this one back. Needs some power. So you can see different setups then, how the space can be used. And I think it's very interesting. And just in everyday life, I can flip up this one as well. And now you see how much space there is when all of the seats are put up. I can also move the suitcases a little bit here, that you can see different setups. It's kind of interesting, and that's the reason why it's such a good family car, because even if we are traveling with the whole family, you still get a lot of space in here. By the way, just two more practical spaces here. You see, this is kind of a beverage holder, and it has a reason, because I've told you initially in the Maxi version there's also a third seat row, so this one is all kind of pre-built in here. So let's close the cover again, and I think that is not the best solution. I'm not sure, it's kind of loose. Sometimes you hit the side here, this one here, this side will get scratches very easily. You see there's all, because it just happens, you know. And then you have to close it at both sides. And then to close it again, you can pull this latch here. It's kind of rubber latch. It reminds me of standing in the bus or in the tram. Like here, put my smartphone, waiting in the tram, kind of funny, but actually it's quite good here, because then you can also, when you're not that tall and maybe you can't reach the upside, then you can pull it down, then everything is fine. And you can close it again. It's also not too hard actually to close the hatch, even if you're not too powerful. So one short look beneath the hood. And actually, it's not the most expensive car, but we already got hydraulic dampers, so Autogefühl test check there. We don't have an engine cover in here, but I can see, well, you can see more of the engine. This one here, the 2-liter TDI, is available in 102, 125, 150 and 175 horsepower. And there are also petrol engines, a new 3-cylinder, 1 liter with 102 horsepower and 4-cylinder petrol turbo engines with 1.2 and 1.4 liters of displacement with 84 and 125 horsepower. So let's talk about driving the new Caddy generation. We're here in the roundabout now, so I can check the steering. Of course, it's not too direct, but it's also not indirect. The steering ways are also quite okay. You can compare the steering with the Volkswagen Jetta, for example, I would say. The sound insulation is good for such a car. Of course, it's not the best CW value because the front screen is quite steep, but still, we drove about 130 kilometers on the motorway and that was still okay sound-wise. The engine here, it's a 102 horsepower diesel. It's a 2-liter TDI, quite well known from Volkswagen. It's very weak on the motorway, but surprisingly okay for the city. So if you're just driving along in the city, you'll be fine with that diesel, also low consumption, surely below 6 liters, it says right now on 100 kilometers. However, if you're driving more often on the motorway, you should go with the bigger TDIs. It's basically the same engine, but just with more horsepower, 125, 150 or 175 horsepower at the top version. These ones are more powerful than. The general impression is just good quality and a very solid car. It's not premium high class, but everything is just well processed. And you can't moan about anything. And I think that's a very important factor because this car should serve a certain purpose, and that is to serve the family. And I think you don't need some glamour in here in this car. You just need that everything is all right. You don't need to take care about anything. It just works. And actually, I think I get this impression. The shifting ways are also quite short. Not much resistance here. Just again, this quite of solid quality. Also how the steering wheel feels. Due to the upright seating position, it's also a comfortable ride, also for longer trips, and also the support from the seats is okay. Even for tall people, the seating area is quite long actually, because quite often in some cars we get very short seating areas, and that's often some negative aspects, and I'm 1.86 meters, so I realize that when long legs don't have enough space on the seating area. Yeah, so that's the basic overview here of the Caddy, so I'm actually quite satisfied. Also got a lot of space here above my head, so you got a general spacious feeling also when driving. And that's another important factor when traveling with your family, because you don't want to feel so narrowed in when you're here with maybe 5 people or something like that. So by the way, the rear view camera, it's optional. But you can see here, it's a good solution. On the left side, you got the optional sensors then as well, and you can change the view. So that is actually quite good to see both the live view and the sensors. You see that one here. But it's also okay if you just want to have this one moving in front. Now you see the sensors stay, but then switching again to the rear. You see, it's also possible that I just have the rear view camera in total, and I think it's a good angle. You see what's close to the car, but also what's coming from behind. And some rear view cameras don't master this compromise, and here both is possible. let's now move on to further versions here. This one here is the commercial version. You see there's no window here in the back, so not suitable for passengers. And the secret is on the inside. First of all, you see it's kind of more basic, just plastic covers here, not in the vehicle color here for the door handles. Also here to have some more practical use on everyday driving, and it doesn't get too expensive when there are some scratches here. And also, you see in the front, this is very prominent. This is also not in the vehicle color, it's also just a plain plastic. That's also cost saving when there are some scratches to replace it or to, well, don't replace it at all. But you see, this is really for the commercial use, and especially important here in the back. You still get the sliding door, in this case only at one side. There you see it's all very robust, that you have a lot of space in here for whatever you want to transport. A lot of pharmacies are using this kind of small commercial vehicles here. For example, if you are maybe a craftsman, want to transporting some tools or whatever, then I can also show you the back opening here. Because here, this is kind of the other way you can pick it. Because we've shown you before, there's this classic hatch opening, which is, I think, also better for the passenger use. But here you can see it's the split use here. So whatever you prefer, this is also possible then. I'm not sure, maybe write me in the comments which kind of door you would prefer and why. Just to show you from the back here, how to close it again. It's kind of this 1/3, 2/3 split. So what has changed here in the cockpit? First of all, these are the basic seats with some very robust fabric. It's not as comfortable as in the passenger version, but it's even robuster here for the commercial use. Then we also don't have design features here in the cockpit front, just another space here, and everything is kind of simpler. This is also the Blue Motion version with the most fuel saving variant. Therefore, we don't have the Climatronic, but the simpler air climate control here. This feels a little bit cheaper than here as well. And in this case here, we got a security glass that we really kept safe from anything flying around in the back. The Caddy is famous for its thousands of variants, be it for the commercial use or just for leisure use. This one is another. We're still with the usual wheelbase here. This one is the special edition Beach. See, it's got this beach color, and it got some special features also in the backside. Here we got the vertical hatch again. Then we can see we got a lot of equipment here. For example, we got a special tent in here which can be attached right up here. They can have a separate tent in the front of here and make it like a camping mobile car. That's very exciting. And you might wonder, what is this here? Well, I will show you what it is. Maybe some of you already know. It's called Beach, this car, and you see it's kind of set up for camping. Now we have to do the following. First of all, I have to use the sliding door and then lower the back seats here on each side. I'm just climbing in here. Maybe do it with two people, that it's easier. So I first lower these ones. Then I go to the front seats. Put the first one down. For the second one, for the driver's seat, I have to go around. Huh? Do some of you know what this will transform into? So I put this one here. Actually, it now hits the top of the steering wheel. It doesn't hit the airbag or the horn that you don't wake up then. And speaking of wake up, we can now unfold the secret. Finally, because this Beach model here has a bed inside. It's already kind of soft, but you can attach another mattress here on the top that gets even more comfy. And of course, you can just take your pillows and then put them right on here and then just test it here. And I mean, you can use it however. I mean, maybe also depends on where the car is standing. If you put your head here or if you put your head there, I don't know, I think you're just free in this decision. And actually, yeah, it's kind of flat here, but I think it's actually quite comfortable. And you know, I once missed a ferry when I was in a small car touring Denmark. I had to sleep inside like just a normal car, and that was really horrible because it was so hard and so uncomfortable. And I think here it wouldn't be a problem if you just put another pillow here and maybe something more on the top even, but I think it's already quite okay. So it's a very good solution here for the camping version, to have still a quite small car, but already go on a camping holiday. And now we go to the Doka, the double cabin. This one is very special because first of all, it's the Maxi Caddy. This one is the one with a longer wheelbase, 32 centimeters longer wheelbase. And this one is very special because it is kind of a combination of commercial vehicle and the passenger car. So we got the second row for the passengers in a kind of simple equipment. You see, it's not that kind of higher class fabric seats as we had earlier today. These ones are a little bit more simple. Also, if you take a look at the cockpit, it's a little bit more simple than earlier today. For example, take a look at the shifting lever below there. Also, there's the more simple air conditioning control, and also we don't have a design element on the higher cockpit here. So this is kind of the passenger side of this car. And then we have this special combination in the back. You see it here already. Maybe if you want to transport your dogs or something like that. Because then here you get kind of both. You got the passenger compartment in the front and still got this commercial loading department here in the rear for whatever purpose you need it. For leisure time, for animals. I think this one would be quite cool for an animal shelter, for example. Or maybe for someone else. Maybe some of you are Caddy owners and tell us something about for what do you use the car, or maybe you don't have a Caddy so far and want to buy one of these or whatever versions and you want to use it for, because I think it's very interesting of how many different people use it for so many different purposes, and I would like to know about that from you. And by the way, in this double cabin here we got a kind of soft ground here. That's maybe even good for the animals I talked about. So guys, let's now take the long wheelbase version for a ride, because there the ride will be obviously different, I think at least, because a different wheelbase will also result in different driving experience then. So let's join me now for this driving report. So like I'm here in the double cabin, long wheelbase now, and the mix of passenger and commercial vehicle. So again, as I showed you, quite interesting mix. And what can you say when driving this longer wheelbase? Yes, the car is not that agile anymore. You will certainly realize that these 30 centimeters of longer wheelbase really make a lot of difference. Just when you turn left and right, the car lags a little bit behind in comparison to the shorter wheelbase. You definitely feel that. Then additionally, it's of course more weight. So especially the smaller diesel are taking the same diesel engine here now as we've driven before to have a direct comparison. And the acceleration is a little bit less, you also feel that. So if you go for the double cabin, definitely go for the bigger diesel than with some more horsepower, or pick one of the petrol engines. Then if we just look here from behind, because we have this mix here and we got this kind of commercial cabin behind there, which is kind of like an open space, it also changes something from the acoustics, because it sounds a little bit weird, for example, when maybe our suitcases now are flying around there in the back now. So you hear more, because in the passenger cabin everything is full of this fabric seats, everything is kind of filled up, and so you also have a good acoustic then, and that's not that good for the noise, even if there's a small cover in behind there, but that doesn't do so much actually. So if you really want to have a better acoustic, then you shouldn't go for this solution, or maybe go for a separate solution where the cabin is completely closed off from the luggage compartment or the commercial compartment in the rear. That's the thing that is kind of like recognizable there. When should you go for the longer wheelbase or the shorter wheelbase? It really depends on your space. As for driving, I would always recommend the shorter wheelbase, and of course, well, if you go for the longer wheelbase, it's also a little bit more expensive then. Volkswagen says 1/3 of the customers will go with a Maxi Caddy with a longer wheelbase, be it for the commercial use or for the passenger use. Well, what would you do? What do you think about this subject? I would go for the shorter wheelbase because I love driving, obviously, and I could still carry a lot of things with the cabin. Even the small version has a lot of space, so I would go for the smaller one. But maybe some of you say, okay, I really need the additional space, and then it all doesn't make such a difference when it's not that agile. At least when going straight, you don't really feel so much of a difference. Beside that, because the noise is kind of different. You really feel that this is noisier than here now. But this is not only because of the long wheelbase, but rather than the setup we have right now here in the back. And yet another special version here for road safety actually. I've seen these ones a lot in the previous version, quite famous with these kind of work groups. And you can see you can already change the top equipment here. Form an arrow to one side or to another, or just form an X or whatever. They are freely configurable from the front of the passenger cabin. And yeah, you think, especially in this warning color here, another nice idea how you can really tailor this car to different kind of people or work groups. So let me conclude about the new Volkswagen Caddy in a second generation. It has rather been an evolution than a revolution, at least from the exterior and the general features. But beneath the hood, well, they changed the platform from the Golf to the MQB platform, where the most modern Volkswagen stand on nowadays. And so they can also use the modern infotainment systems and also the assistance systems. From serial production, you get the emergency city braking assistant. That's very good. Until 30 kilometers an hour, the car automatically brakes itself. However, the other ones are optionally, but they are at least available. You've seen the car is very versatile. From the outside it doesn't look so huge, but from the inside it is actually huge for passengers as well as for your luggage. And you've seen so many different variants, and I think this is one of the strengths of this car, that it can be so actually tailor-made to everyone who wants to have another purpose, be it for the commercial use, for different passenger use, maybe for animals, for road safety or whatever. I think there are so many variants, and also has been very interesting for me. Maybe even the beach version, where you can actually take a nap when you're at the beach, at least when you're allowed to camp on the beach. So I want to hear your comments about the car, because from my side I was actually quite satisfied. I still don't like the design, that's just my opinion, but I think I'm not alone with that one. But this car is really more about what it's delivering on the inside, and I think there it delivers also a lot for the money, because it's way cheaper than, for example, the Volkswagen Transporter, but still offers already a lot of space. So again, waiting for your comments and your thoughts on the car, on the different variants, which one you would maybe go for, and I hope we'll see you at the next episode of Autogefühl.